Most people talk about adulthood like it's a staircase you climb step by step. Work hard, save money, don't cause trouble, and eventually life rewards you. That's what I always believed. That belief carried me through a decade of 60-hour workweeks at a Sacramento marketing firm, through years of skipping vacations, brewing my own coffee, and saying no to dinners that would wreck my budget. While my co-workers lived like their paychecks were burning holes in their pockets, I was quietly stacking every dollar I could. My name is Erica Dawson. I'm 35, single, and 2 weeks ago I became something I used to dream about on nights when I came home exhausted and smelling like printer ink. Homeowner. It wasn't glamorous. The house was a quirky little 2-bedroom in a scruffy but promising neighborhood in East Sacramento. It came with creaky floors, a kitchen that looked like the set of an 80s sitcom, and wallpaper that could traumatize a small child. But it was mine, paid in full. No mortgage, no cosigners, no loans. Just years of discipline, paired with the small inheritance my great-aunt Ruth left me. While other people traveled and bought handbags that cost more than my monthly rent, I poured everything into the dream of owning a home. I lived in shared apartments with rotating roommates, fixed my own appliances, and clipped coupons like a Depression-era grandmother. And when the final dollar clicked into place, $300,000 saved, I walked into escrow like a warrior stepping onto a battlefield. I threw myself into renovations immediately. YouTube taught me how to patch cracks, strip wallpaper, and repaint walls until they looked reborn. I had calluses on my palms, paint in my hair, and a satisfied ache in my back. I loved it. Every improvement felt like stitching my identity into the walls. Then my phone buzzed. It was my mother. "Erica, sweetheart." She cooed in that syrupy tone she only used when she was about to sneak a trap into the conversation. "We're having a little family meeting next Saturday. Everybody's coming. You'll be here at 4. And could you pick up that chocolate cake from Sweet Juniper? The one you always bring." There it was, the tone, the phrasing, the vagueness. My internal alarm bells flickered like a faulty light bulb. "Mom, what is this about?" "Yes." "Oh, it's a surprise," she chirped. "Too bright. Too rehearsed. Just family time." But my family didn't just do anything. Still, I agreed. I always did. I wasn't the dramatic one. That was Kyle, my younger brother, the golden child. While I worked myself into the ground to get through college at night, Kyle dipped in and out of creative dreams and half-hearted part-time jobs. My parents adored him for it. The unfair moments piled up over the years. His 16th birthday. Backyard blowout with a DJ. Mine. A supermarket cake eaten in the kitchen. His first car. Used Jeep. Mine. A second-hand bike with a wobbly wheel. The pattern was obvious. I just learned to swallow it. But this family meeting felt like something different. Something calculated. And I had no idea how right I was. Sometimes the moments we walk into blindly become the ones that finally open our eyes. Saturday arrived with the kind of heaviness that settles in your chest before a storm. I picked up the ornate chocolate cake my mother insisted on. 3 layers of dark fudge and buttercream, the kind she never asked anyone except me to bring. The familiar expectation. The familiar weight. As I pulled into my parents' driveway, every suspicion I'd had sharpened. The street was lined with family cars. Aunt Lisa's spotless hybrid, Uncle Ray's ancient Subaru, my cousin Mariah's bright yellow Beetle. This was no casual dinner. This was a full-scale gathering. Inside, the house buzzed with carefully rehearsed cheer. "There she is," Mom announced, swooping in to snatch the cake from my hands as if I were merely the delivery driver. Perfect timing. People milled around, chattering with forced laughter. Kyle and his fiancée Emily were curled together on the couch, beaming like they'd swallowed a spotlight. Dad was engaged in a low, serious conversation with Uncle Ray. And everywhere I looked, eyes flicked toward me with a mix of expectation and something else. Anticipation. "Do you know what's going on?" I whispered to my cousin Mariah as I slid into a chair beside her. She shook her head. "Your mom said it was big family news. That's all I know." Her voice held the same uneasy curiosity swirling in my gut. Dinner was served like a prelude to a verdict. Too polished, too formal. The good china, the silver, the neatly folded cloth napkins. Mom only brought these out when she wanted to emphasize importance or guilt-trip someone into compliance. When plates were full and forks began scraping, Mom rose to her feet, tapping a spoon against her water glass. A hush fell instantly. "We have wonderful news to share," she sang, her eyes locking onto Kyle with theatrical pride. Emily and Kyle are expecting. Applause, cheers, congratulations erupted. Emily blushed, hands resting gently on her barely visible bump. Kyle puffed out his chest like he'd personally repopulate Earth. Clap too, genuinely. A baby is always worth celebrating. But Mom wasn't done. And, she added, glowing like a stage performer. They've decided to get married. We're already discussing venues. More cheers. More applause. More pride radiating at Kyle. Then something shifted. Mom glanced at Dad. Then at Kyle. Then at me. A slow, purposeful turn of attention, like a spotlight swinging into my eyes. And that's not all, she said, voice dipped in honey but stiff with expectation. As many of you know, Erica recently bought a home. She gestured toward me as though unveiling an exhibit. A few cousins murmured polite congratulations. I nodded stiffly. Mom clasped her hands together. But Erica is 35, single, and living in a house all by herself. My stomach dropped. The room tilted. And Kyle and Emily, she continued brightly, are starting a family. They need space, stability, a real home. He paused dramatically. And we think, the whole family agrees, that the best thing, the right thing, is for Erica to give her house to Kyle and Emily. Silence detonated in the room. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. For anyone to say this was absurd. But Mom's smile only widened. You can go back to renting for a little while, honey. You don't need all that space. Not when your brother's family needs it. The applause that had filled the room minutes earlier evaporated into a thick, suffocating quiet. And every eye turned to me. Sometimes betrayal doesn't shout. It arrives smiling, wrapped in the language of family. For a long moment I couldn't breathe. It felt like someone had opened the floor beneath my chair and dropped me straight into icy water. My ears rang. My pulse thudded against my ribs. And all I could see was my mother's eager, expectant smile staring at me like I had already agreed. Mom. My voice came out rough, disbelieving. What are you talking about? She blinked, genuinely confused by my confusion. Sweetheart, it just makes sense. You're on your own. Kyle has a baby on the way. He needs the space far more than you do. Dad cleared his throat, stepping in like he was moderating a town meeting. Think of it as supporting your brother during a hard time. Families sacrifice for one another. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. A hard time, I repeated. Kyle hasn't worked more than 20 hours a week in almost 2 years. Kyle bristled immediately. Hey, I'm an artist. Creative careers aren't 9-to-5 jobs. You made 3 clay bowls last month, I said evenly. 2 cracked in the kiln. Emily gasped, clutching Kyle's arm protectively, as though I had attacked the unborn child itself. You're being really negative right now, Erica, she said, her voice soft and trembling. We're trying our best. I swallowed a bitter laugh. And somehow my best becomes your safety net. Mom's smile flattened into a steely line. She only used that expression when she was about to bulldoze someone into submission. You have a stable job, a steady income, and no dependents. You can easily move into an apartment. Kyle and Emily need the house now. So you decided for me, I said. This isn't about deciding, she dismissed. It's about doing what's right. What's fair? Fair, I whispered. Fair to who? That's obvious, Aunt Lisa chimed in. And I flinched because I hadn't even realized she'd been listening. Your brother is bringing a new life into the world. Sacrifice is part of being a family. The agreement rolled through the room like a quiet tide. Murmurs. Sympathetic glances aimed at Kyle. Not at me. My cousin Mariah whispered, barely audible. Erica, I think you should say something. Oh, I would. I saved for 12 years. I began, my voice low, shaking at the edges. I skipped vacations, skipped eating out, skipped everything while Kyle was out partying, smoking and playing with clay. Kyle's jaw tightened. That's not fair. What's not fair is expecting me to give the one stable thing I've built in my entire adult life to someone who's never taken responsibility for anything. A stunned silence followed. My mother looked as if I'd slapped her. Erica, she snapped, voice suddenly sharp. You will not speak to your brother that way. He is starting a family. He has real needs right now. And I don't. Yes. My needs don't matter. You're overreacting, Mom declared. No one is forcing anything. We're simply asking that you do the right thing. And if I say no, Challenged. The room held its breath. Dad finally spoke, voice heavy with warning. Then you're being selfish. That word hit harder than anything else. Selfish. The one label they had always used to keep me in line. But something in me cracked. Quietly, decisively. And for the first time in my life, I didn't shrink. I sat up straighter. Then call me selfish, I said. Because my answer is no. The shock on their faces was almost satisfying. Almost. But families who believe they own you don't give up easily. And mine wasn't done taking. You could have heard a pin drop after I said it. My entire family stared at me like I'd confessed to a crime. My mother recovered first, straightening her sweater like she was resetting the scene. Erica, she began slowly. You don't mean that. You're overwhelmed. Let's all take a breath. I'm not overwhelmed, I cut in. I'm done. The words felt like stepping outside after years of stale air. Sharp, clean, cold. But Mom's face hardened. Don't be dramatic. This is simply a request. A request with an expected answer, I replied. Kyle scoffed loudly. You act like we're trying to steal your house. It's for the baby, Erica. Don't you care at all? Oh, there it was, the guilt card thrown like a dart. Of course I care about the baby, I said. But caring doesn't mean I have to hand over my home. A home I earned. Dad leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice calm in that way he used when he wanted me to fold. You're not seeing the bigger picture. We're a family unit. When one person struggles, the others help. I've been helping for 15 years, I reminded him. Financially, emotionally, logistically, every emergency, every crisis, every scrape Kyle got into. Who did you call? No one spoke. They didn't have to. They knew. Me. I was always the one. I exhaled slowly. It's never been equal. Not once. Emily sniffled, wiping a tear even though no one had attacked her. This is really stressing me out, she whispered, leaning into Kyle. We thought you'd be supportive. You thought I'd roll over, I corrected. Mom's expression twisted, hurt mixed with disbelief. You're really refusing to help your own brother. I'm refusing to sacrifice my entire future to clean up decisions he made without thinking, I said evenly. Aunt Lisa clicked her tongue. You always were too independent, she muttered. Never learned how to be part of something bigger than yourself. A laugh escaped me, short, humorless. Too independent. I paid my own way through college while Kyle lived rent-free at home until he was 26. Mom flinched. That's enough. No, I said quietly. For once, it isn't. And then, something I didn't expect happened. Cousin Mariah spoke up. Everyone here knows Erica's the only reason Kyle isn't drowning in debt, she said, her voice wavering but determined. She's not being selfish. She's setting boundaries. My parents turned to stare at her like she had grown a second head. Mariah shrank back but didn't retract the statement. Kyle glared at her, then turned back to me. Fine, he snapped. If you won't help us, don't expect us to help you when you need it. Blinked. When have you ever helped me? He opened his mouth and closed it again. Emily squeezed his arm as though comforting him from the burden of accountability. Then Mom delivered the final blow. If you walk out of this room with that attitude, she warned, her voice trembling with fury, you are choosing to separate yourself from this family. My pulse steadied. My hands stopped shaking. I'm not choosing anything, I said. I'm finally refusing what you've chosen for me. I stood, grabbed my coat, and headed for the door. No one followed. Not one person tried to stop me. I walked out into the cool evening air, heart pounding, chest tight, but lighter than I'd felt in years. But stepping away from a toxic pattern is never the end, because the moment you reclaim your power is the moment people try hardest to take it back. For 2 days after the ambush dinner, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Missed calls, group messages, guilt-laced voicemails. My family came at me from every angle like a coordinated military operation. Every notification made my stomach clench. First came my mother's voice messages. Erica, sweetheart, we need to talk calmly. You embarrassed yourself Saturday. Call me back. This is not how families behave. You owe your brother an apology. Not they owe me. Owed them. Classic. Then Kyle texted. Kyle, low blow, Erica. You ruined Mom's big announcement. Kyle, we're family. Why don't you want to help? Just forget it. But if he really wanted me to forget it, he wouldn't have sent 12 more messages after that. By day 3, even distant relatives chimed in. People who hadn't spoken to me in months suddenly had opinions. You should put family first. You don't need such a big place alone. They're growing a family. You're just one person. Just one person. Funny how easily people reduce you to something small when they want something big from you. I ignored every message. Instead, I threw myself back into my own world. Back into my house. My sanctuary. I finished painting the hallway, installed new shelving in the pantry, repaired a door hinge. Every improvement reminded me why I couldn't give this place up. This wasn't just a building. It was 12 years of sacrifice made solid. It was proof I could survive without depending on anyone. But peace never lasts long when people think they have a claim on you. On Thursday evening, as I was hauling boxes of tools back into the garage, a car door slammed behind me. Turned. Oh. He marched toward me like he owned the ground he walked on. We need to talk, he said, pushing past me into the garage before I could object. No, I said firmly. We don't. He ignored that. Mom is devastated. Dad's furious. They think you've completely lost it. I crossed my arms. Because I refused to hand over my house. He rolled his eyes, frustrated. You're making it impossible for us. Emily's been crying for days. I bit back the urge to say Emily cried when the barista spelled her name wrong. Instead, I said calmly, that sounds like an emotional problem, not a real one. Kyle bristled. You're being heartless. We need stability before the baby comes. I stared at him. Kyle, you're 32. You've had years to build stability. He winced. Why are you attacking me? I'm not, I said. I'm stating facts. You can get another house, he insisted. You're good with money. And how exactly would I do that after giving this one away? Yes. Start over. Another decade of saving. He hesitated. You're acting like we're taking everything from you. You are. Silence stretched. Then he looked around the garage. My tools, my projects, the space I'd carved out through determination, and something in his expression shifted. Not understanding. Not empathy. Entitlement. This place is perfect for a nursery, he murmured, as if imagining my life being dismantled board by board. Cold anger rose in me. Kyle, I said quietly, if you walk into my house again without permission, I will call the police. His head snapped toward me. You wouldn't. Try me. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. He stepped back, hands up. Fine, he muttered. But don't expect us to be there for you when you need family. I watched his car speed away, gravel scattering under the tires. 4 years, their disapproval would have shattered me. No. It barely cracked the surface. But storms gather quietly, and the next one would come from someone I least expected. The next storm didn't come from my brother, or my mother, or any of the relatives who'd suddenly appointed themselves judges of my morality. It came from the last person I expected to take a side at all, my father. Friday evening, just after sunset, I heard a car pull up in front of my house. Slow, deliberate engine. No rush. No aggression. Just a quiet certainty. A knock followed. 3 steady taps that belonged to someone who assumed they'd be let in. He stood on my porch with his hands in his pockets, shoulders squared, eyes tired in a way that had nothing to do with age. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The porch light cast a soft glow around him, making him look smaller than I remembered. Can we talk? He asked. Debated. Then stepped aside. He walked in, taking in the entryway, the newly painted hall, the home I had built piece by piece. You've done a lot of work, he said quietly. I have. We moved into the living room. He didn't sit. Instead, he paced slowly, examining the space like he was calculating the weight of his next sentence. Your mother is upset, he finally said. She feels you disrespected the family. I kept my voice even. She disrespected me first. He exhaled heavily, rubbing the bridge of his nose. You know your brother. You know he struggles. He struggles, I said, because no one has ever allowed him to experience consequences. Dad froze. That landed harder than he expected. Erica, he began softly, do you really need this house so badly you'd fracture the family over it? There it was. The final card. The nuclear guilt bomb. Not Kyle needs support. Not let's find a compromise. But why are you ruining the family? I stared at him. I don't need the house, I said quietly. I earned it. And that seems to be the part everyone keeps ignoring. He looked genuinely pained. Your brother is having a baby. And that baby deserves parents who take responsibility, I answered. Not parents handed everything by someone else who sacrificed for years. Dad stopped pacing. Your mother thinks you bought this house out of spite. And blinked stunned. Spite. Dad, I saved for 12 years. I denied myself everything because I wanted security. I wanted something that was mine. Not because of Kyle. Because of me. He finally sat down, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. You were always the strong one, he murmured. We never worried about you. I closed my eyes briefly. There it was. The accidental confession of a lifetime. We don't support you because we assume you don't need support. The quiet child becomes the forgotten one. The responsible one becomes the exploited one. I'm done being the strong one by myself, I said. If that means stepping away, I will. He looked up sharply. You're saying you'll cut us off? No, I said. I'm saying I will not be manipulated into sacrificing everything I've built. If the family chooses to push me out because I won't give up my home, that's their decision. Not mine. Dad stared at me for a long time. Then he nodded, once, slow and reluctant. You've changed, he said. No, I corrected. I finally stopped playing the role you all wrote for me. He stood, walked to the door, hesitated. We'll figure something out, he said. I hope so, I replied. For Kyle's baby at least. He left without another word. I stood in the quiet of my own home. My walls, my floors, my life, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not because everything was resolved, but because, for once, I had chosen myself. And the world didn't end. Sometimes the greatest act of rebellion is simply refusing to give away what you've rightfully earned, no matter who asks for it.